Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, gang. I am here in Kingsport, Tennessee, and I am speaking with Mr. Jack Pierce, who is a resident of Kingsport and this community of Riverview. What can you tell me about your family? Was it a small family, big family?
My family?
Yeah.
No, we had a big family. My grandfather had 5 boys and one girl. And they was raised in Bays Mountain, Cedar Mountain over there.
Okay.
And my family, there was 13 children in my family. And they're all dead, but me, I'm the only one living.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
But my dad farmed. And I worked at Eastman for 38 years. I worked out there. And, most of my brothers, they went north to live. New York, Connecticut, up in that area they lived, Kingsport.
When did they leave?
They left when they got out of school and old enough. They left and went that way. There were better opportunities that way.
Sure.
Better jobs, better pay.
So how many of your brothers out-migrated and moved up north?
Up north? 5.
5. Mm-hmm. 5 out of 13.
Some went to Washington. Some went to Connecticut. Some went to New York. I stayed here. After I got a job at Eastman, I raised my family here. At that time, there was no jobs here unless you'd be a janitor or a maid or some kind of low-rate job. And sometimes it's pretty embarrassing if you're an intelligent person and know what you can do, and you have to do that.
Oh, sure.
And so one of my older brothers, he left home early. You ever hear of hoboing? People used to catch a train, hobo, they call it, years ago.
Yeah.
Well, one of my older brothers, that's how he left home. And he wound up in Washington. So when he got to Washington, he did well. Then some followed suit. They'd go up, so they all, just about all of them went up north.
But you were never swayed.
Well, being the youngest, things was getting a little better.
Okay.
And then since I got a pretty far job,
Yeah.
and I stayed here.
Okay.
Now my parents, my dad was strict. My mother died, I was 30. And that left my dad with 13 kids to try to raise, and living on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard my dad say at the cemetery when they buried my mother, he had a brother. His wife, they were pretty well off. They had 3 kids and they was doing pretty good. And so they wanted to take some of us kids. And I don't know how they done it. She may have went around like you pick out little pigs, maybe and feel the ribs. I don't know. I don't know how my aunt done it. but anyway, but I said, no, we were all going home. And so that's how we raised. The oldest one helped the younger ones up, and that's how we come up.
I just 13 kids that seems like a lot of kids.
Well, you probably couldn't have made it unless you was on a farm.
Right.
Raised all your food. We had cows and horses. One time we had 13 horses. We had cows. My dad traded and sold, and he that way we had plenty of food. I've never done without food in my life.
So was your farm Were you what's called a subsistence farmer, where you just grew what you ate?
That's what we did. We didn't commercial nothing.
No commercial?
No.
Okay.
Now my dad, he was a blacksmith too. One time the Pit Dairy Company, you ever hear of Pit Dairy?
Yeah.
Milk. The milk company that delivered milk. And they had horses at that time. Delivered milk wagons. The horses, there was the big Belgian horses, they Bigfoot. Something like those Clydesdales, you know.
Yeah.
Big horses.
Yeah, we have those up in Pennsylvania.
Well, that's what the Pit Dairy Company had, the big horses like that. And they had rubber shoes. Their shoes was coated with rubber. So on the streets, you know, they wouldn't slide around.
Right.
So my dad, he had a contract to do the shoeing for those horses, put the shoes on. And just an ordinary horse, he got 25 cents a foot to shoe. But for those big Belgian horses the Pit Dairy Company had, he got 50 cents for every shoe he put on. And those, he had to keep those rubber shoes on. Sometimes they'd come and get my dad in the morning because those horses got to be out delivering milk and they need the shoe on. See, so with him getting 50 cents every shoe he put on, and most of the people were just making $1 a day. So that way he made
That's $2.
yeah,
That's a good day.
yeah.
What else? So you had animals. What else did you grow on your farm? Was it
All kinds of vegetables.
okay?
Hay for the animals.
Yeah.
Vegetables, corn, hay, and then garden, all kind of vegetables and stuff. That was part of your food supply. Plus you raised hogs, and then you had cows and all that. Food product. I never was hungry unless it was my fault.
Does that mean you got in trouble?
Yeah, I went off and didn't get home in time to eat.
Gotcha. Many of my students up north are going to be familiar with racism and segregation as topics they get from a textbook. Some of them might be familiar or victims of racist acts, and maybe even some of them have perpetrated them. I don't know. But none of them grew up living in the South during the era of Jim Crow and segregation. If you're willing, is there any story or something you can share that would help my students understand what that was like?
It's hard to explain it unless you lived it.
I'm sure.
I could sit here and talk to you all day, and actually, unless you went through it day by day, and that was your life, when you get up in the morning, and when you went on your job, when you went in a store, when you went to buy food, I can't actually explain that to you. If you lived it, then you felt it. And you just hoped that your children wouldn't have to do that. It's hard to explain to your children that you can't do those things. And I was in here where they had the separate water fountains.
Yeah.
Back when I was coming up, you go in the store, black and white, or colored and white, or whatever you want to call it, same color water.
Right.
So I come up in that area.
Okay.
I know when I was working at the Eastman, we had the smallest department at Eastman, the black janitors was. And we had more people fired out of our department than any department at Eastman. We had some of our employees and janitors had been teachers. They made more as a janitor that was, say, down in Hawkins County. They didn't pay much, so they come to work as a janitor other than teaching Hawkins County.
Wow.
But our foreman had a third grade education. And he had authority to fire us. He had the authority. Couldn't hardly read his name, but he had the authority to do that. And it was hard to work under conditions like that, but we had to.
Yeah, yeah.
And I said if I ever had authority like that, and I'd be over, what I gonna do to you guys? So
were you a good boss?
As time went on, I did make foremen.
Okay.
And all of my employees, about one was white. We didn't have as much segregation in the country, I guess, is that in the city. Because we weren't segregated from theaters, because we didn't go to theater. And lunch counters or whatever it was, we didn't went to that till I come to town. But far as just us first living on a farm, eat together, slept together, swim together, shared together. That's what it was in the country. But when I really started feeling segregation, when I come to town. And I couldn't go to the theater unless I went upstairs. I couldn't eat in no restaurants. And it's strange to me, raised in the country. And then when I got into the city of Kingsport, was limited to the things I couldn't do. And school, it was a terrible thing in school, the hand-me-downs that we had to deal with. For instance, like our carpenter shop, we didn't have one power tool. Everything was handed down. Matter of fact, the lumber we had was handed down from, let's say, like Diabetic High School. Their scrap lumber, what we used.
Huh.
All of our tools was
Hand tools.
And we had to live with that. And it was pretty hard to take, but to try to get an education, you had to go through it.
Textbooks were hand-me-downs too?
A lot of our football stuff was hand-me-down that they didn't use anymore. Was what we had to use. Tools, lumber pieces they hauled, give it to us. It wasn't a very good time.
Sure.
At that time. But you did what you had to do to get an education.
Of course.
It wasn't fair to our teachers to have to live like that. They went to school to get an education, then you put them in a place segregated like that. That was pretty hard to take.
Yeah. So when you said as you were growing up and you got married and you were having kids, you were hoping your kids didn't have to live through the same kind of things you lived through.
Yeah. They before they integrated school, things went well. But I have seen the times when they integrated school, my kids come home crying. They didn't want to go back. They were treated bad. And matter of fact, they were treated bad with some of the teachers, too.
Yeah.
And I know my daughter come home, she'd cry, and she said, to get in the swimming pool, if she'd get in, all the other kids get out. The white kids get out. The teachers did nothing about it. And so that made it that much worse.
How old was she?
Yeah, they didn't have anybody to stand up for them.
Right.
Now, not all the teachers that way, but some were. And that hurt me and my wife.
Oh, I bet.
To see my kids, and then you got to send them right back the next morning. And I see other parents the same way. We were going through the same thing when they first integrated.
Other than a job at Eastman, what were your other opportunities?
Well, at that time, that was all a black could do at Eastman. But over the years, it got better. When it really started getting better was during the Kennedy administration. When I first went to Eastman, well, for instance, all the cooks were black, but they couldn't eat in the cafeteria. With other black employees, they could eat in the cafeteria, but they was in a segregated area. Then doing things over the years got better.
Sure. Huh. So they were allowed to work in the cafeteria, they just couldn't eat in the cafeteria.
Couldn't eat out in the cafeteria, no.
Wow. Huh. And they have a special room designated for you, or you just have to find a place?
Well, there was some terrible conditions. One area was a little old area where you put broke down chairs and broke down furniture. You would go in there and eat the black wood. Now, I could go through the line and get my food just like everybody else.
Right.
But I couldn't eat in the cafeteria. They had about 3 big cafeterias. And one cafeteria, I could eat in the cafeteria, but they had it roped off. I had to go behind the rope to eat.
Huh.
But most of them, you had to go in a little storage room after you bought your food.
And they don't do that anymore.
No, things got better.
Good.
We got better jobs.
So what kind of job did you finish with?
I finished as a foreman in the polymers department. I had about 30 people work for me, and 1 black and about 29 white.
Wow.
When I retired.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
Excellent. Huh.
Times gradually got better. Jobs got better.
How's your children's lives? Are they dealing with the same issues as you did back then? Or?
No.
Okay.
My oldest son died. He wasn't in service. He was in the Marines. And my daughter, she finished school. She East Tennessee State. And then one of my youngest daughters was a nurse. And all my kids did well.
Jack, I thank you very much for letting me into your community, sitting down and letting me ask you questions and giving me your perspective. I very much appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I'm telling you honest as I know how. And telling you something I've lived. And some of the things I've experienced. And I hope it'll be some help.